All right, so this week for Week of Prayer, we are going to be having students who went on the mission trip during spring break to share a little bit about their experiences. And so each night I'm going to have different students up here that went on the mission trip. Tonight is going to be Amber. Say hi, Amber. And Caden. They're used to getting their names wrong because the principal of the school that we're at got a lot of the kids' names wrong the first couple of days. So I just want to make them feel more welcome and more ease the nerves and calms. But what we're going to do is we're going to share a couple of pictures. They're going to share some stories, and I'm going to be asking them questions about their experience. So instead of just being a message or a sermon or something along those lines, we're just going to tell some of the stories about how we saw God and just some of the fun things that we had. And hopefully by the end of this, you guys will each be blessed as we were. So first up.
Oh, yeah, that's me. Okay, so this was a couple of pictures I took the first couple of days. The picture that's, I don't know, this side, that's the worship that what we did. We did daily worships every morning. The time varied depending on what time we had to get up and go for the day. The picture that's on this side, that one is a picture that I took because we were waiting for 45 minutes because we had a driver who was supposed to take us to and from the place we were staying and the place that we had to go. And the driver took a very, very long time, and so I took a picture of us waiting. The bottom picture is a really, really bad picture of the van, but it's the only picture I have in the van. These are just a bunch of group photos. And the top photo was the night that we went to and arrived in Tanzania itself.
Caden, what's going on here?
So during this trip, I became really good at playing instruments, all instruments, even the banjo. I'm joking, I did not play the banjo, but I played the ukulele and the drums. I became really good at all of them, so good. They called me Mozart. They did not call me Mozart, but yeah. During this trip, I would goof around with instruments quite a bit. I would play around with like people's ukulele, and that was fun because the children at the school that we were at, most of them were very interested in music. The drums that on the left side, my left, with Pastor Tom, they had like drums when they were worshiping, and so almost like all the songs that they would sing, they would have this really fire drum beat to it, and it was really cool. But yeah, most of the students were interested in music, and it was really nice to see.
So what is that drum made out of?
I think it was made out of like cow skin or something. It kind of smelled like dog, but yeah, I think it was made out of cow skin.
Yeah, so the drum was a homemade drum. The students themselves made it because they didn't have any instruments and anything like that. So they really enjoyed the guitars that we had. And the ukulele that I believe was Andrew's ukulele, right? Andrew, that was your ukulele? Yeah, he had brought the ukulele with it, so they got a chance to do a whole lot of music there. So, all right. Amber, what happened on the trip that was very unique?
So the day that we left to go to Tanzania was my birthday. I turned 16. Sweet 16 was spent in a plane, very cramped. But they did give me cheesecake from first class. That was very nice. But so what's happening here in this photo is my dad so very kindly told the principal that it was my birthday on the plane. And for some reason, because we arrived there on Sabbath, I think, was it? Yeah, so when he told him on Sabbath, the guy was like, "Oh, so your birthday's on Monday." And he looked at me and he told me that my birthday was Monday. My birthday was no longer on the Friday. No, it was on Monday. And they were going to celebrate it on Monday. But things happened and we ended up going to town. We weren't able to get back until Tuesday. So they celebrated my birthday on Tuesday. And so the guy that you see playing the guitar has never played the guitar in his life, but he had written me a song and played the song for, I think it was 6 minutes, was the video recording, of singing me a song. It was very sweet. I was very happy with that. And then they gave me a cake, and the way that they did cake was very interesting. Um, they had me cut the cake with Nadia. Nadia was just randomly pulled up there. That was not either of our decisions, and together we cut the cake, and then we cut the cake into cubes and then put them on toothpicks, and one by one I fed each person in that room. I, I fed first the people that were beside me, then I fed the mission group people, and then they asked me to pick random people in the room, and I didn't know any of these people because it was still one of the first days we were there. So it was really bad. I was very embarrassed about it all. But it ended up nice. The cake was very dry, but it's the sentiment, it's the heart, it's the thought that counts.
All right, so some of the things you guys are already talking about is things there are a little bit different than they are here. And talk to us a little bit, either one of you, about some of the differences you notice between there and here. Yeah, the school, the things that they do. What are some things that are different there that you notice that are not the same as you would have here? You know, Amber talked about on her birthday, she fed everybody with toothpicks. I'm not sure how many of you guys have done that. Do you normally on your birthday feed people with toothpicks your birthday cake? No, Dean Lambie doesn't do that, but Pasha for some reason does, I guess. But what are some other differences that you noticed while you were there?
African time probably was a big thing. Nothing. I feel like everything had a schedule, but you didn't follow the schedule. The schedule was the suggestions, and that was about it. Especially the principal, he had he he had a very interesting way of telling time and distance, because everything is a kilometer, and yeah, the time was very different because sometimes we'd be like their graduation, for example. It started like 3 hours late. The time that the graduation started, literally nobody was at the graduation, and it was definitely something.
Yeah, just expanding on Amber's response a little bit, to give you a reference to this kilometer thing, he said one time we were going for a walk, like a Sabbath walk, and he was like, it's not that far, it's not that far. Some of us were feeling tired, we didn't want to walk for a while. He said it's not that far, it's only a kilometer. By the time we were done, the walk was like over 3 miles, and that was definitely not a kilometer. So that just shows you how out of whack some things were.
Yeah, so we end up walking about 3.4 miles, which is around 5-6 kilometers. So, all right. So talk a little bit about what you guys actually did there. And there's a picture of some of the stuff you guys did.
So Caden and I actually did different things most of the trip. So I'll let him talk about the pictures, and then I can talk more about what me and the other group did.
Okay, so the pictures up there are mostly like indoor construction work. As you can see, we're putting in a floor. But before this, like the first 2 days we were working. Not the first 2 days we were there, but the first 2 days we were working. We were putting up some glasses in windows. And that was fun. I never did that before. And we all did not like doing that. But it was nice getting the experience of doing something new. So yeah, almost all of us were doing the windows at first, and a couple of us branched off into other things. Amber will talk about that, but me and Paul, it was only me and Paul, we branched off into like this construction type setting where it was me, Paul, a couple other students, and this like, I'm not sure what you would call him, like a mason or something. And we filled this floor up with concrete. yeah, it was a really cool thing to do. And yeah, that's what me and Paul did for the majority of the week we were there.
So basically, what they did is there was a classroom that had fallen into disrepair, and so what they did is they refloored the entire class. Well, we ended up reflooring about 3/4 of it. We didn't quite finish before it was over with, but they basically mixing cement, smoothing cement out, and making the floor. So that's what he's talking about in this room. So Amber, what did you guys do?
We painted. We did after we moved on from the glass, putting in the windows, which quite a few of us did not enjoy. I mean, it was definitely an interesting experience, but it was very hard and tedious work that required a lot of concentration and a lot of grr because it doesn't want to work right. And so we moved on to painting. We ended up painting, I think it was 3 classrooms, and we repainted. We didn't do any actual like putting up paint on. Well, we did, I guess technically, but mostly we did repainting. There was 2 shades on a wall. I don't have any pictures of them, but it was a white, which the white paint always ended up very, very watery because the engineer decided to put lots of water in it. But we ended up making it making it work. And then on the bottom, there was a peach, and then they had like a black line that like outlined the bottom. And that's essentially what we did.
And so when she says engineer, it's basically our equivalent of a contractor. They called the guy that was the contractor that was kind of overseeing the work an engineer. So, well, outside of work, there was also some other fun things that happened. What else happened?
So this was the Sunday that we came. This was a bunch of pictures that a bunch of girls and I took after their game of handball, which handball was basically basketball, but outside, played with a volleyball, and you didn't actually dribble the ball. You just kind of ran around and threw it at each other. And I wasn't exactly sure what the rules were, and I didn't actually join in their actual game. I just took the volleyball and shot it into the upside down basketball net, and just had a lot of fun. I connected with some of these girls here, and then after this, they stole my phone and took a bunch of selfies on my phone. I think I have like 50 plus selfies of the people here on my phone. But it was a lot of fun, and while they did this, the boys went and played football, but I was not paying attention because I was hanging out with these people.
And what did you do while she was doing this?
I was playing soccer with Paul and Andrew, and we're playing on like a field behind these guys or next to them or whatever. It was interesting, kind of going more into detail about like the soccer experience. It was fun playing with the guys. They all had like really good sportsmanship and they got along with each other on the field, even when it got quote unquote heated. It was a little disorienting because there's like a bunch of potholes, and if you're running, all of a sudden you go like a foot down, and you hurt your spine. But it's okay. It's okay. It's about the experience.
All right, and another thing that's different when you go to another country is the food. So you guys want to talk a little bit about the food?
I cannot lie. The beans and the rice,
They slap.
they had, I can't really see it from here, but most of the food up there was like beans and rice, and then there's like chapati and stuff, which chapati is on the right side. I think it's the right side. The bread and the soup looking thing. The chapati was really nice. It's basically like a flatbread. And yeah, as I mentioned before, I really, 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 really like the beans and the rice a lot. I would definitely go back just for the beans and the rice, and I'm not joking.
I would too. They were delicious.
Yeah.
So outside of beans and rice, what was your favorite thing, food-wise?
You said outside beans and rice?
Outside of beans and rice. You guys have made it clear that the beans and the rice, they slap. Something about being bussin' or something. I don't know. You guys kept saying that like every other day, so.
Outside of the normal beans and rice, I would say another type of beans and rice. I'm joking, I'm joking. I would say the chapati was my second favorite thing to eat. Yeah.
Amber, what about you?
The chapati was really good, but I really liked I don't know if you can see it, but on some of these meals there's like this like cabbage kind of thing. It tasted kind of like a really fresh not coleslaw. I don't know what it is, but it was like this like cabbage thing, and it was really really oily, but it was really really good, and I really liked it. But I also really liked the spaghetti kind of thing they had. They took spaghetti and then they put vegetables in it, and then I put some salt on it, and it was very delicious.
What about the red sauce and the pizza that you guys had?
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about the food we ate outside of the food we ate or something like that. So this food is like the food they gave us, and the food that did not bust, that did not slap, we ate at a restaurant, and as I said, that did not slap.
Pro tip: never get American food in Africa, unless you just really really like all of your food being dessert and ketchup.
I see Kylan back there laughing because he muscled through the worst spaghetti in the history of all spaghettis. They may talk about that. Andrew helped too. I'm sorry, but Kylan was the one that had the plate in front of him. So, well, this experience, a lot of really fun experiences you guys had, and each night we're going to talk about different experiences. But I'm going to ask you guys. I'm going to kind of end with the same kind of questions. First question is, what did you learn on this experience? What is one way that you felt that you grew in this experience? And by the way, this is I'm going to be asking this question to each of you guys, so those other ones, you can get a little bit of how it's going to go. But what is something that you learned on this trip? Overall, something that you learned overall about during this trip. You learned about yourself, you learned about the experience, something like this.
Well, something simple I learned was, I guess, this is like really simple, but putting in the glasses, that was something I guess you could say I learned, but something I learned about myself is that I really liked being around people. Like before I went to the mission trip, and I guess before I came to Milo, I was mostly like alone and stuff. And so since coming to Milo, I guess I started to realize it. But the mission trip, like being on the mission trip, being around the, people from Milo and also the people at the high school, I really noticed I really feel better about myself, or just happier in general when I'm like talking and around people and stuff.
Something that I learned was how different life is, I guess. I mean, I knew it before. I've been, to other places, whatever, and stuff before. But there was one of the girls who we were painting, and one of the girls from the school, she came up to me. She asked me, she was like, hey, once you graduate university, do you have a chance of getting a job? And the question kind of confused me, so I asked her to repeat it, and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, if you go to college, you get a degree or whatever, you have a pretty good chance you can find a job anywhere. Maybe not anywhere, but And she was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And I learned that in Tanzania, even if you get you get the good grades, you get the high thing, you get the job, you get the degree, there's a good chance that you won't get a job anywhere. Like one of the guys that was with us, Mr. Diodi, he was talking about how oftentimes a lot of the people that are just, doing odd jobs around are like, they have the university degrees. They are trained to be doctors, to be engineers. And it made me realize, wow, I have such good opportunities. I should be very thankful and grateful for the stuff that I have.
Yeah, and the name Daodi Dodi is the co-director for the Cheris Foundation. It was the sponsoring organization that invited us over there, and so he was our point of contact there, was with us for most of the trip. And he even sat there and said that a lot of, almost all the taxi drivers there have degrees, but they can't find work in their fields. And so they go, he explained that going to university was like improving your odds in a lottery that was very unlikely to win. And so if you didn't go to university, you weren't going to get a good job. And even if you went to university, the likelihood of you getting a good job was not very good. So that was just normal there. And so they're trying to even get higher standards for education to give these kids better chances and better opportunities to be able to use that education, to go to university and get a job there. But they're looking at trying to get more kids to come to the United States to go to school here because the opportunities here are better than what they have there. So.
And just to add on that, there was one of the kids at the school who literally, in 2 weeks, while still doing classwork with a bunch of junk, made a phone, like a working phone that you could call and you could talk to. It was crazy. And to think that he might not be able to get an opportunity to get a job, someone that smart, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, and we'll show pictures of that. I don't know if any of the other students are going to talk more about the student and the thing, but on Sabbath morning I'll show some pictures of the cell phone that he made out of wood and nails and scrap and all kinds of stuff. It was pretty fantastic. Next question. On this trip, how did you see God? How did this trip impact your relationship with God, and how did you see God?
So, this was one of our worship thoughts one time. I'm going to basically just give the same answer. I saw God with the way the students at the high school interacted with each other. They, like, always treated each other nicely, and they, like, I'm not at the school, so I'm not sure if there's, like, any drama or anything, but the drama seemed to be, like, non-existent, and it was really nice to see. And yeah, it was just nice to see how they bonded and, fellowship together and stuff. Also, I saw God in another way, kind of in like the personal time that I was there. I kept on losing my rubber pieces for my earbuds. And, I lost them I'll tell you how many times I lost them after, but first time I lost it, I said like a little prayer. I didn't think much of it, like, God, please help me to find my earbuds, because, I wish I could listen to music right now. And, like a couple minutes later, I found my earbuds, and, I was like, yo, thanks, God, that's really nice. And then I lost my earbuds like 7 more times after that, and each time I would pray, I would find them, so that was really cool.
Something that was really cool to me that I saw God is all of the little answered prayers. Like what Kaden said, we had, or maybe not even just little, we had a lot of times where, like, we would be talking about something, and then we would be like, oh, let's pray about it, and then almost like immediately afterwards, God would work it out. And it's just like, it reminds me, like, even when I go through times like that are bad, that God still cares about the little things. He still cares about the earbuds. He still cares about our safari trip. He still cares about all of the little things. And praying is always something that you can do to God. He'll always be there to listen, and he'll answer even if he doesn't always answer the way you want him to.
All right, and last question I'm going to ask you guys. If somebody was to ask you about, or was interested in going on a mission trip, because we're going to go on a mission trip again next year, and maybe there's somebody here who's possibly interested in going on the mission trip, what advice would you give them? And what would be if you could explain the mission trip in 1 or 2 sentences? So what advice would you give them, and explain kind of the mission trip in 1 or 2 sentences?
So, advice would to make sure you read the packing list. I didn't read the packing list, but you should definitely read the packing list because it tells you what to pack. I know that's crazy, but it you should read the packing list. Also, basically summarizing the mission trip to give you a better idea is most I would feel well this mission trip at least came from the I guess perspective or came from the area. I don't know how you would say it, but it would come from the area of like fellowship was the main priority. So I would say if you're going on a mission trip, you should be willing to like socialize and fellowship with people you meet along the mission trip and the people you go on the mission trip with.
My word of advice would be fundraise money beforehand, much beforehand. Do not put it off to the last minute. So you're like, where am I going to get $500 from? It's a week till mission trip. Don't do that, okay? And to summarize the mission trip, another word of advice, be flexible. Be very flexible. Just be willing to go with the flow. If the person asks you to make a 2-minute speech, he's just like, hey, Paul, come up here and make a 2-minute speech. Just do it, be ready to do whatever. And to summarize it, it's definitely an eye-opening experience that can change you for the better if you let it. Because I feel like you just have to go with the flow, go where God takes you, and just let God use you and let him show you the things that he wants to show you.
Well, very good. So, anybody have any questions? I wasn't going to open this up, but if anybody's got any burning questions they'd like to ask. Ms. Jacqueline, is that a question you have, or?
I had tons, but you asked the main ones that I wanted to ask. Good
Okay.
job.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, each night this week we're going to see pretty much. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I thought I was.
Go ahead.
If you could think of the favorite moment from this trip, what would that moment be?
Okay, so Miss Jacqueline, for those that are watching the live stream, she asked, she's one of our teachers here, asked, if you can pick your favorite moment from the trip, what would it be?
Whee!
You have to give context to that, Amber. Nobody's going to understand that, even though everybody went on the mission trip is groaning in pain right now. Yeah. But you have to explain that.
So we had a 30-minute commute to and from the hostel, which is the place that we stayed, and the school. And sometimes the conversations on the bus would be interesting, very interesting. And one time when we were coming back after worship, I think it was you who started it, actually, Father. He said, I don't know what he said, because I don't think I was paying attention. But then he said, "Wee," and so we started saying things. It was mostly Kaden, actually, who started saying things. Like, can you give us an example, Kaden?
So I heard the wheeze after I unplugged my earbuds. Thank God for helping me find my earbuds. And I heard all the wheeze, and so I would say something like, we're gonna drive off a road and we're gonna go like, whee! And so we basically went back and forth like that for 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, like most of the drive, it was amazing. I think we annoyed half of the people in the bus that were trying to sleep and trying to just relax and live their lives. But it was their fault for going on the mission trip with us.
So just to give a little bit of context, we talked about kind of how the Moonbeck, who is the headmaster of the school, had different time things, and he didn't always get them right. 1 kilometer was really like 3.5 miles. That 20-minute drive they're talking about lasted 14,812 days when they were doing the wee thing. So, all right. Why do 3 of you guys have your hands up? 4 of you guys have your hand up all in the same place. I'm kind of scared. All right, say your question loudly and I can repeat it.
Okay, so did you guys make, from the kids that you met, did you make any like best friends? And if you did, tell us about that.
So Pasha, for those that are watching, Pasha, one of our students here, asked the question, did you make any friends while you were there? And can you tell us about maybe a friend or a best friend that you made while you were there?
I made friends. A couple of the people I was, a couple of the people I was close with, they're mostly like Form 6, which is basically their quote unquote like last year of high school, but they're like 19 and 20 years old or something. I made a couple of friends with a Form 6. I would say it was Arnold. It was a guy named Arnold. It was a guy called Micah, and there's like a Form 5 student also that I was pretty cool with. His name was Tyler. I got a lot of phone numbers from the students there because they wanted just to keep contact with like everyone. So the whole school was basically asking for all of our phone numbers, even like the teachers and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I have had 2 calls already, and by 2 calls, I mean 2 different people have called me. One of them actually called me like 8 times in the night, and I didn't respond because I was sleeping. And I actually still haven't responded, which I feel kind of bad about, but I forgot. So after I do this, I will go and respond.
Names?
Oh, yeah. So it was mostly the girls that I talked with. I talked with some of the guys. I talked with Arnold. I talked with this guy. His name was Frank. I think he was Form 6 too. And I talked to some of the girls. There was Gretchen. There was Vanessa. There was, oh shoot, I forgot her name. Nasila. I remember. There, yeah, there we go. Yeah, there was quite a few girls. All of them were super cool, super friendly, very talkative, and I enjoyed hanging out with them.
And to give you guys a little bit of context, they have different, their grades are different where we start with kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. They have standards, and then after standards, they have forms. And so Form 6 is basically their equivalent of what we consider a senior, but their Form 5 and Form 6 is kind of like an addition to high school. It's like it's high school past high school that's specifically preparing for college. So if you were not going to go to college, then you wouldn't go all the way to Form 6. So that's kind of what the equivalent is. That's why they were 19, 20 years old. So, yes, sir.
The scariest wild animal you've seen?
Okay, so Joseph asked, what was the scariest wild animals?
Okay, so on the safari, we saw the big 5, which is like the hippo, the lion, elephant. And
Honey badger? Oh, wait, no, we didn't see the honey badger. Sorry, Paul.
Hippo's not on the Big 5.
it's not. That's crazy. It's like it's 5 animals in Africa that are a part of the big 5. I forgot what they are. It was. It doesn't matter, but the scariest one I saw was like a lion. But honestly, I wasn't too scared of it, even though like so one point in the safari, we went on a safari break for like a day and a bit, basically 2 days, and we were driving one time. And there's like a lion right next to the road, and since the safari vehicles like open up, you can open the windows, of course, and the roof also opens up so you can like literally stand and peer over or outside of the vehicle, and the lion's like right there. And honestly, it wasn't too scary despite being right there. But I remember one time getting like butterflies in my stomach because it was like walking past us, and I realized how big it looked and how close it was to the vehicle and stuff like that.
So the scariest animals I saw were the frogs in Nadia, Janaea, and Beatrice's room. Those were no, actually, it was the frog that Kylan had in the bottle. He kept threatening murder. He did murder. No threatening. So there was this frog, and he told I don't know. I think it was Andrew. It was Andrew. He told Andrew to do 2 pull-ups, I think, or something. And now it was not just like a bar. It was like a slab, and Andrew could not do the 2 pull-ups or refused to do the 2 pull-ups. I don't know which it was. And and Kylan brutally murdered this frog. He put the frog in the water bottle, and then he started shaking it. And it was so terrifying. It was
That
so
scarred me for
traumatizing.
life. I will never be the same.
It was terrible. I'm telling you, it was traumatizing. I cried.
So I'm gonna go ahead and stop you there because remember there's certain things that happen in Africa that stay in Africa.
Oh,
So you
my
guys
bad.
are gonna have to talk about that afterwards. So
Kylan, you just got exposed.
Kylan, you will always.
well, I want to end on one final note. Is one of the things for me in this trip that I emphasized a whole lot was we're not there just to do work, right? We can pay to have the work done more professionally because you watch the kids put the windows up and it was a pretty terrible job. Not gonna lie, it was pretty bad. And the way they do things there is just different. The window glass didn't fit. And so when you think the window glass wouldn't fit, let's go back and get the right size. No, they took pliers and started just chipping off little chunks and trying not to break it too badly to be able to make it fit, and they would put the glass and all that kind of stuff in. And not just our kids, but their kids too. Their kids, I think, were even arguably worse at putting in some of the things and some of the different types. The jobs would have been done better if they would have been done by the professional, right? We would have just paid for the contractor to come in and do the work. The most important part is what Caden has said is the relationships. We're going there to build relationships with the school, build relationships with the community people, build relationships amongst themselves, the students that went. And so when going on the mission trip, it's, yes, you're getting to experience a different culture. Yes, you're getting to see the awesome ways that God answers prayers, but you're also going there to build relationships and, of course, arguably build a close relationship with God. When you have to depend upon on your relationship with God, you see things are maybe not as bad as you once thought they were. We went 2 days without any power. Kind of hard to charge any of your devices due to doing that kind of stuff. The internet was almost non-existent. Hot water wasn't always a thing. Neither was water pressure. There were bugs and critters and all kinds of stuff like this. But through those experiences, there was a bonding that happened with the students. I got to know a lot of these students a whole lot better, and it was really what I feel was a really good relationship. So, last question I'm going to ask you guys, and you guys can kind of have just if you have any closing remarks or anything that you want to share, just that God's laid on your heart here. 2 minutes, Caden. No more than 2 minutes. Share something, some final words with your fellow students here at Milo about your mission experience. And that's just a play on the fact that Mr. Moonbeck would literally ask people to get up and do something after he said he wasn't going to ask anybody to do anything. So, and he liked to say 2 minutes, even though that time frame doesn't make any sense because sometimes 2 minutes would end up being 15, but actual 2 minutes or less, Caden. A final closing statement you want to share with your classmates.
Okay, so don't time me on this, but closing words that I would like to leave with you guys is that I would encourage everyone to go on a mission trip because it's not about the trip itself, it's the impact that you would make on the other people's lives. Because these guys, as I was saying, you know, they give us their numbers. Some of these guys are like grown adults, and they're giving us their numbers. It shows the impact where, like, you know, they want to get in on the how would you say, the vibe, I guess, is the closest thing I could put it to. But it's not just the trip. It's the word that comes before the trip. It's the mission trip, you know. You're on a mission for God. You're hoping to leave God in these people's lives. a lot of the children that were at the school were not Adventists. It was like one or two, and it was like a couple teachers, but like 90% of the school's population were not Adventists. Some were like Muslim, some weren't even like religiously affiliated and stuff. And so when we're there, I think just your main focus should be leaving a piece of God with the people once you leave and just showing them God when you're there. It's not about the trip itself, even though the experiences are really, really fun. Those are just like benefits and add-ons to it.
And I'd like to extend that and say that it's not just the people that you're going and visiting that you're doing a mission to. It's the people that you're going with, and it's also kind of yourself. You want to show God through what you do, but you're learning about God too. Like I'm sure we taught them things. They kept going on and about how they were so thankful, how we were most welcome, and how, all these different things about how we helped them. Mr. Moonbeck was talking about how from years and years from now that people would still be talking about what Milo did at the school. I'm not sure if exactly, maybe they would be talking about what we did at the school. But like Caden said, it's about the impact that we had on the people and the people that was there and the people that were around us. I can say for sure that I have developed a close relationship with all of the people that I went on mission trip with. And I think I developed a close relationship with God. I learned some things about him, and I'm kind of sad it's over, but I'm very thankful for the experience that it's led me, and I hope to be able to keep showing people, even after the mission trip, the God that yeah.
All right. Amber, would you mind go ahead and closing us with prayer?
Of course. Dear Jesus, thank you for today. Thank you that we were able to talk about this mission trip. We were able to laugh a little bit. We were able to share a little bit about you. Please be with the rest of the week and the rest of the people on mission trip that are going to be sharing some of their experiences. And please be with each of us as we go throughout the rest of our week, the rest of our year, the rest of our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right. Tomorrow night, we'll be doing the same time, and we will have Paul, Tyler, and Matthew will be sharing a little bit about their experience. So, see you guys tomorrow night.